Before we begin, take a breath. This isn't just a podcast. It's a new way to think, speak, and live in English. Welcome to Cough Podcast, where words flow, confidence grows, and every sip brings you closer to fluency.
Honestly, it's fantastic to be here for this one.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So today we are diving into some really fascinating source material, right? We're taking a deep dive into the transition from basically self-mastery to mastering relationships.
Right, exactly.
And the notes frame this specifically around Stephen Covey's concept of the public victory. So for you listening, our mission today is to unpack exactly how human trust works, why those online communication tricks are doomed to fail, and how treating your relationships like a financial ledger can radically change how you interact with everyone.
It really is a complete paradigm shift.
It is. And by the end of this deep dive, you're going to look at your most frustrating relationships and, your closest friendships through a completely different, much clearer lens.
Yeah, and, before we can even talk about building trust with other people, we have to look at the prerequisite for any healthy relationship, which is true independence.
Right.
Because you really cannot achieve what the sources call interdependence, which is just cooperating with others,
Right.
without first mastering your own independence, like your own self-discipline.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, wait, isn't teamwork supposed to be about covering each other's weaknesses?
Well, sort of, but
Why do I need to be a completely put-together independent adult before I can be a good partner or a good teammate?
so if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about what you actually bring to the table.
Right.
If you haven't paid the price of success with yourself first, you kind of have nothing to contribute to the group.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, think about a person who lacks self-control. The notes compare them to a dependent toddler. If they, scream or throw a tantrum every time they get upset, no one is going to want to work with them.
Right,
Yeah.
because the rest of the team just has to stop and manage their emotions.
Exactly. Independence is the necessary foundation for the cooperation of interdependence. You have to handle yourself first.
Okay, so assuming you've done that, you've got that independent foundation, how do you actually communicate? Because I feel like people are always looking for these quick tricks, right?
Constantly.
Like say these 3 words to make anyone like you.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources are super clear that techniques without character always fail.
Always. Every single time. There's this great analogy in the material about a shady used car salesman.
Oh, yeah, the used car guy.
Right. So imagine this salesman, and he has great speaking techniques, perfect eye contact, great posture. He uses all the psychological mirroring tricks.
Uh-huh.
But his character is fundamentally shady. He has a terrible reputation for selling bad cars. It literally doesn't matter how smooth his communication techniques are because no one trusts him.
Yeah, your brain is just screaming, nope, don't trust this guy.
Exactly. And this introduces the absolute core metaphor of this entire deep dive, which is the emotional bank account.
I love this concept.
Yeah. It's brilliant. Relationships run on a balance of trust. If you have a massive trust account with a close friend, like a really high balance, you can be in a super grumpy mood one day, right?
Right, you snap at them over something stupid.
Yeah. And they'll easily forgive you because the account has a huge surplus. But if the account is almost empty...
Like a couple that's just near a breakup.
Exactly. If the balance is low, communication completely breaks down. Everything is a threat.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about, arguing with a partner. So when couples are screaming at each other for an hour over something stupid like a dirty dish in the sink, they aren't actually fighting about the dish at all.
Not even a little bit.
Right. They're just reacting to an overdrawn emotional bank account.
Yeah.
The dish is just a tiny withdrawal that completely bounced.
That's exactly it. So if relationships literally run on this emotional bank account, the big question is, how do we actively make deposits rather than withdrawals?
Right. How do we put money in the bank?
Well, the sources give some really specific examples, and one of the biggest ones is just trying to truly understand the individual.
Oh, the baseball story.
Yes, the father who hated baseball.
Yeah, so there's this father in the notes, and he absolutely hated baseball. Just zero interest. But his son loved it, right?
It was the kid's whole world.
Yeah, so the dad takes his son on this massive summer trip to see, I think it was 30 different baseball teams play.
Yeah.
Simply because he loved his son and he wanted to understand his son's world.
Which is such a huge deposit. Because he didn't treat his son the way he wanted to be treated. He treated him based on his son's unique traits.
Yeah.
And another really powerful deposit mention is loyalty to the absent.
Meaning, basically, do not gossip.
Exactly. If you talk badly about someone who isn't in the room, the people who are listening to you will just assume you're going to do the exact same thing to them the second they leave.
Wow, yeah. That instantly drains trust. But, okay, what happens when we mess up? Because we all make withdrawals, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the excuse-free apology comes in. When you make a mistake, you have to say, I was wrong, I was a jerk, I'm sorry. And that's it.
Just stop talking.
Just stop. What's fascinating here is the psychology of the excuse. The moment you add because or but to your apology,
Like, I'm sorry, but I was just really tired.
yes, when you do that, you are actively shifting the blame to the other person. You are turning a deposit into an argument.
But wait, what if the other person also did something wrong? Like, let's say it was a mutual fight. Do I still just apologize for my part and shut my mouth?
Yes, you take 100% responsibility for your part first. An honest, brutal admission of your own fault instantly kills the argument.
Really? Because they have nothing left to fight against.
Exactly. There's no fuel left for the fire. And usually the other person will voluntarily mirror that honesty and say, you know what, I was out of line too, but you have to do it without conditions.
Man, that is tough, but it makes so much sense. Okay, so we're making these deposits. But a bank account is really only useful if it can withstand a financial crisis.
Right. It has to survive a stress test.
Yeah. In relationships, hard times are the ultimate test of your balance. The notes point out that you really don't know if you can trust someone when everything is just easy and fun.
No, because everyone is nice when things are easy. Difficulties are what reveal a person's true face.
Right. And there's this great success story in the source material about walking the Camino de Santiago across Spain.
Oh, yeah. 30 days on foot.
30 days. And it was like blisteringly hot. They were completely exhausted. And there were constantly arguments over where to stay for the night.
Just a miserable environment, physically.
Yeah. But that shared struggle made the friendship vastly stronger years later.
Yeah.
It's kind of like surviving the early broke years of a marriage, right?
Exactly. Eating instant noodles and struggling to pay rent builds a kind of trust you can't fake. But then there's the flip side, the failure story, which is actually about weeding out the bad.
The Italy trick.
Yes. So there's a man who met a girl from Russia while they were both in Greece. They had a great time, super easy, so they decided to book a 10-day trip to Italy together.
And it all falls apart.
Completely. By the end of it, navigating the trains and the stress, they realized they were just completely incompatible. They actually ended up walking separately by the end of the trip.
Ouch.
But the sources note this is actually a good thing. We shouldn't fear relationship stress.
Right. Because it prevented a disastrous long-term commitment.
Exactly. It prevented a bad marriage. You have to look at conflicts not as like disasters, but as stress tests. They either deepen the bond or they save you from a really bad long-term investment.
That reframing is so powerful. But it does raise a big question for me. If we have to test trust, does that mean we should just start off suspicious of literally everyone?
Well, no.
Like, how do we calibrate our trust with complete strangers?
Trust isn't binary, right? It's not just 0 or 10. The sources suggest it starts around let's call it a level 5 with new people.
Okay, level 5, neutral but open.
Right. But there is a classic scenario where that trust should immediately drop to 0. The notes call it the tourist trap.
Oh, I've definitely experienced this.
Right. If a total stranger walks up to a tourist on the street acting super friendly, my friend, where are you from?
Huge red flag.
Massive. Your trust should drop to 0. Unearned, unnaturally high friendliness is usually just a scam. The author actually learned this the hard way while traveling in India.
Yeah, you just have to politely block them and walk away.
Exactly. Just walk away. But there is a really interesting exception to this rule mentioned in the notes.
Oh, right, the English students.
Yes. Sometimes someone approaches you because they are an English student wanting to practice their language.
And they're usually, younger, maybe carrying a notebook.
Right. But the key difference is how they react to rejection.
Mm.
If you give them a polite no, a genuine student accepts it without following you. A scammer will keep pushing.
Ah, so you watch what people do, not what they say.
Precisely. Behavior is everything.
Okay, so when we move past strangers and look at our actual friends, the notes make a really profound point about the inner circle. Because the English language kind of overuses words like friend and love.
It totally does. We say, I love pizza and I love my spouse with the exact same word.
Right. And we call someone we met twice a friend.
Yeah, but biologically, humans only have the energy to maintain a true inner circle of trust with a tiny handful of people.
Yeah, the notes say most people only have 2 to 4 true best friends in an entire lifetime.
Just 2 to 4. That's it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think it is incredibly freeing to realize that you literally don't need to be best friends with everyone.
It takes so much pressure off.
It really does. You can have hundreds of acquaintances,
Yeah.
but your actual energy, your emotional deposits, should go toward making those inner circle few really strong.
Absolutely. Quality over quantity every single time.
Okay, so let's do a quick wrap up. First, interdependence requires independence. You have to handle yourself first.
Second, good character always beats slick communication techniques.
And third, every single interaction is either a deposit into or a withdrawal from your emotional bank account.
Which leaves us with a final challenge for you to mull over today.
Let's hear it.
Think about the person you live with or work closest with. The next time you find yourself arguing with them over something trivial like who left the lights on or an unreturned email stop, and ask yourself, are we actually fighting about the lights or are we both just staring at a zero balance in our emotional bank account?
Wow.
And then ask yourself, what unprompted deposit can you make for them tomorrow without asking for a single thing in return?
That is such a great question to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, fluency isn't just about the words you use, but the connections you build with them. Catch you next time.